Several of the Fat Controller's engines had gathered at Knapford Station waiting for a special visitor to arrive. The engines were all very excited, all except for James, who didn't see the big fuss over a single tank engine. Just then, Percy came frantically panting in from the works. The engines waited and waited, but the engine was still a no-show. Hours passed by, but the special was still nowhere in sight. Far away from Knapford, at Kelsthorpe, the special wasn't on its way. Rather, a cold and tired Stepney idled on a siding, waiting for a relief engine. Finally, Jeff arrived. Jeff was coupled up to Stepney, and the two engines set off into the night. Stepney gathered his thoughts, and this is the story he told. Stepney's day started at Sheffield Park on the Bluebell Railway. Plenty of railway enthusiasts had come by to follow Stepney's train and take photographs or video recordings despite the rain shower. He was eager to leave as it would be a long journey to Sodor. Then the guard blew his whistle and Stepney set off into the countryside with a clear line ahead. As Stepney continued puffing up the line, he noticed some enthusiasts along the line taking pictures, but they were at a safe distance from the railway line, and he gave them a friendly blast of his whistle. Stepney then left the familiar tracks of the Bluebell and was now on the other railway's main line. He kept a keen lookout along the line for enthusiasts, as they could be anywhere now, whether it's be on the opposite line, on bridges, in yards, in bushes, or even in tunnels. Just then, Stepney noticed something close to the line. There was a man taking a video from the ballast. Stepney wheezed some steam at the man to try and get him to move away. The man definitely wasn't pleased about this. Up the line at Kroll, an enthusiast was speeding down the roadway. He was trying to keep up with Stepney's train and wanted to get a picture. He noticed the station nearby, so he screeched around the corner and sped on. He tried to stop his car as he approached the tracks, but he couldn't. The road was slick from the day's rain, and the car's wheels only locked up. The car smashed into a fence, sending bits of fencing onto the main line, while the enthusiast's car came to a stop on the ballast. Stepney was speeding down the line, making good time, but the enthusiast was more concerned about getting his picture than warning the train. Stepney was to make a stop at Doncaster so people could get the opportunity to see him at the safety of a station platform. He was directed into a station stub track and stopped just before the buffers. The station was quiet and hardly anyone was around. Stepney's driver checked his watch. Not long after, a diesel pulled into the station on an opposite line. A group of rail enthusiasts had arrived and they began climbing all over Stepney to take photos. They then began to argue about being in the way of each other's photos. Some of them began pushing and shoving each other for the best shot and out of anger. The station platform was a chaotic mess. Stepney felt some enthusiasts being shoved against his side tanks. Stepney blew steam everywhere, soaking the crowd in a shower of water, which sent them packing. Stepney's crew thought it'd be best to leave, despite not being scheduled to leave for 15 minutes. Stepney backed onto the main line and started out of the station quickly. What he didn't know was there was another steam exertion leaving the station in the same direction. There were enthusiasts lined up close to the tracks, focusing their cameras on the other special train. Stepney whistled as loud as he could, hoping they would hear him. The enthusiasts began to move out of way, except a young boy, who was taking pictures intently. The boy was too infatuated with getting a perfect picture to notice. It wasn't until a fellow enthusiast physically moved the boy himself that he was safe. The boy didn't bother to acknowledge the man and continued with his photographing like nothing ever happened. Stepney eventually crossed the border into Sodor, but nothing had changed. Some boys near the line thought it fun to throw rocks at Stepney as he passed by. The rocks pounded against his side tanks until one rock hit his safety valve. Stepney and his crew looked back to see who had thrown the rocks and didn't notice the red signal outside Kelsthorpe. Stepney's driver slammed on the brakes and his wheels squeaked loudly as they skidded along the track. Stepney's crew then looked him over for any deflects. Stepney reluctantly agreed and slinked off slowly with his coachers. He sat cold and tired when his driver stepped out and spoke to him. As Jeff pushed Stepney into the works, he noticed Gordon sitting alone. So Stepney began to tell Gordon all about his adventure to Sodor into the latest hours of the night.